When 17-year-old Ethan Carter was forced to unearth his own mother's grave over an HOA violation, it was the shattering peak of a family's grief. Victor Steele, the HOA president, wielded his authority to settle a bitter vendetta, targeting Ethan with threats, fines, and even criminal charges. But a former neighbor uncovered a shocking truth buried in the paperwork, flipping the case on its head. Wait until you hear how this gut-wrenching story unfolded and why justice didn't just arrive, it roared. Laura Carter had been battling illness for years, but she never let it define her. Even in her final days, when pain stole her sleep and her strength faded, she sat at the kitchen table, helping Ethan with his college essays. She made her husband, Mark, promise to fix the neighbor's car, as he always had. For Laura, dignity wasn't about hiding her struggle, it was about facing death with grit, sleeves rolled up, and love for others still burning bright. She and Mark had built their life from scratch in Oakwood Estates, a modest home on a plot they poured their hearts into. At the center of their backyard stood a cherry tree, planted the day they moved in, its blossoms marking every spring, its shade cradling every family memory. That's where Laura wanted to rest. Mark hesitated at first. Private burials were rare, but Laura, ever thorough, secured the permits. The county approved a legal burial on their land, no corners cut, no secrets kept. When the time came, Laura's body stayed home, wrapped in a quilt she'd sewn herself, carried by Mark and Ethan to her final place under the tree. No priest, no fanfare, just the three of them, the tree, and a quiet farewell. Mark read from her favorite novel. Ethan tucked a locket with their family photo into the coffin. They buried her with love, the neighbors watching silently, some with kind words, none with complaints. Until 2 weeks later. Mark found the notice taped to their door, crisp and official, stamped with the Oakwood Estates HOA seal. Unauthorized burial in violation of HOA Covenant 4.6.3. Immediate action required. Mark's heart sank. They had a permit. They'd followed the law. But at the bottom, in sharp script, Victor Steele, President. The name stung. Victor had clashed with Laura for years. She'd called him out at HOA meetings, exposing shady budgets and demanding transparency. She'd humiliated him, and now, even in death, he wasn't done with her. Victor Steele didn't need a throne. He had his HOA bylaws and a vendetta. A retired accountant with too much time and too little compassion, he patrolled Oakwood like a dictator. A mailbox slightly askew? Fined. A hedge too tall? Cited. But his hatred for Laura was personal. She'd nearly cost him his presidency when she uncovered a $15,000 landscaping fund that vanished under his watch. Now, her grave wasn't a resting place, it was a challenge to his control. He dug through the HOA covenants, landing on a vague rule about unapproved landscape alterations, and declared her burial a violation, permit be damned. You think you can turn your yard into a graveyard? Victor sneered at Mark outside the HOA office. This community has standards. 3 days later, a second notice arrived. Remove burial materials within 7 days or face a $1,000 daily fine. Mark pleaded, waiving the county permit, offering to landscape the grave, but Victor was relentless. At the next HOA meeting, he painted a nightmare. If we allow this, what's next? Livestock? Junkyards? The board, spineless and intimidated, approved the fines. Code enforcement followed, snapping photos of the grave. Then came a lien notice, step 1 to seizing the house. Mark thought it was a bluff. No one could be that cruel. But Victor wasn't playing. On a gray Tuesday, Mrs. Larson, the neighbor across the street, saw Ethan in the backyard, shovel in hand, face hollow. He was digging. Not Mark, Ethan, just 17, jeans soaked, eyes empty. Mark couldn't face the dirt again. Ethan had begged him the night before. If we don't do this, we'll lose everything, Dad. So, while Victor sipped coffee on his porch, Ethan unearthed his mother's casket, each shovelful a wound. Neighbors watched, curtains drawn, none intervening. The fines stopped, the grave was gone, But Victor wasn't satisfied. A week later, Victor filed a sheriff's complaint claiming the burial permit was fraudulent, citing a 3-day date discrepancy as proof of deception. The county bought it. A manila envelope arrived, charging Ethan with unlawful exhumation and disturbing a grave site. No mention of Victor's threats, no nod to the valid permit, just cold accusations against the grieving teen. In court, Ethan whispered, "I did what he told us to. I thought it'd save our home." The media ignored the story. The neighbors stayed silent. The HOA backed Victor, calling the charges necessary for community standards. Mark was broken. Once the family's fixer, he now stared at cold coffee, the house suffocating him. Laura's warmth, her notes on the fridge, her humming by the window, was gone. Ethan faded too, skipping school, shutting out friends, his voice reduced to whispers. One night, Mark found him shaking in the basement, hoodie up, not crying, just trembling. Therapy didn't help. Ethan said, "I hear the dirt hitting her coffin every time I close my eyes." Laura's body sat in a storage unit stalled by legal review. Then Victor struck again. The cherry tree, Laura's soul of our home, was deemed a hazard. Chainsaws arrived at dawn, reducing it to a stump in an hour. Mark watched, frozen, as 30 years of memories were chipped away. Hope came quietly, through Ryan Mitchell, a former neighbor and retired lawyer. He'd known Laura's kindness, a meal left on his doorstep during his wife's illness. When he saw Ethan's charges online, his gut churned. He called Mark, then sat at their kitchen table, combing through papers. He found it. Victor's revocation notice was dated after the burial, a sham crafted with a crony in the planning department. It was illegal, toothless, but enough to bully the Carters. Ryan moved fast, filing to reinstate the permit and nullify Ethan's charges. Then he tipped off a local reporter. The story broke. Teen charged for digging up mother's grave, HOA retaliation. It spread like wildfire, racking up 900,000 petition signatures demanding Laura's reburial and Ethan's exoneration. Comments flooded in. "This is inhuman. HOAs are a scam." Victor's TV interview, smirking about sanitary standards, poured fuel on the outrage. The clip went viral, painting him as a heartless bureaucrat. Investigations followed, exposing Victor's selective fines and coerced board votes. The HOA collapsed as members resigned, abandoning him. State officials confirmed the permit's validity. Victor's revocation was a lie. In a packed courtroom, the judge dismissed Ethan's charges, calling the case a moral failure. Ethan wept. The gallery cheered. 2 weeks later, Laura was reburied under a new cherry sapling, her grave now a protected memorial. Victor faced charges: abuse of authority, falsification, coercion, and was banned from HOA leadership. State laws changed, curbing HOA power. Ethan, now a law student, drafts Laura's Law to shield grieving families, testifying with quiet power. The memorial stands, the tree blooms, and Ethan visits, leaving apples as a promise. This story isn't just about cruelty, it's about fighting back. What do you think of Victor's actions? Could Ethan and Mark have resisted differently? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's debate HOA power and justice. Your voice matters, so hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep this story trending.